The most intelligent leftist in the world has revealed himself unto us. Is Gary Lineker. It's not the best, I'll be honest, but he is the funniest, at least in regard to some new policy in the UK, which is boats, go home. I think we're allowed to say that. The boats have to go home. So this isn't news to, obviously, the boats over the channel, which have not stopped in the slightest. I think they've doubled every year now for 4 years. So good job. Thanks, Conservatives. Keeping your promises. And just to get to it, we'll mention the census data proves Britain is not a nation of immigrants, article from Carl, because you can just look at the effects of mass immigration. This is before we even get to the illegal immigration. And if you want more, go back to the last segment about demographics, for sure. But
it was Carl's article that prompted that whole previous segment.
Yeah, and we'll go on to the news, though, in regards to the Home Office. Put out a statement. Enough is enough. We must stop the boats, says Sir Willa Braverman. Yeah. If only someone had been in charge. I like your party for the last... What has it been now? 13 years? About 13 years?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if only someone could have done... And yeah, okay, whatever.
Enough is enough. Theresa May said that about terrorism.
But I just love the idea that I don't know how you can be serious. Like, if you're going to make PR for your cause of, like, now we're going to crack down on immigration or something, you can't sit there and be like, yeah, enough's enough. Like, you've been in charge the whole time. That doesn't work.
Yeah, but to be fair to Braverman, she hasn't been in charge.
Yeah, we had Priti Patel.
She tried.
It was a complete wet. No,
well,
it's the point.
She was undermined by those
she's
behind the scenes.
She's not aware. It's just a structural problem with the party, in my view. That there's so much more there than just...
and the ministers, the ministry is there permanently. The minister's only there for a year or two.
Yeah, because we'll go to the next one. This is the funniest thing, which Rishi Sunak put out, which is weird PR. She put out, if you come to the UK illegally, you can't claim asylum, you can't benefit from our modern slavery protections, and you can't make spurious human rights claims, and you can't stay. Okay, cool policies. The graphic he put up was a graphic that says, if you come to the UK illegally, you will be detained. Denied access to the UK's modern slavery system.
I don't think they've worded that right.
Yeah, scholars are still trying to figure out exactly what he meant by that, because I don't really know. I mean, like, our modern plantations are too good for you slaves from foreign lands, is what I initially got. I didn't know we were operating slavery plantations.
I think by the UK's slavery system, he means...
British slaves for British workers. They're taking our slavery jobs.
Debt slavery. Maybe he's referring to debt slavery.
Yeah, I think, and we're hoping, is that he's talking about the fact that...
He meant protection.
Protections.
They meant slavery protection.
Hopefully. Maybe not. Oops. Who knows?
Yes, presumably he's been jumped on for that.
Yeah, a little bit. But we'll go to Nigel Farage, because I just think he's right on this. He did a video.
Nigel's right about everything.
In this specific instance, he just makes the argument that, oh, look, the Tories are telling you they'll stop the boats. Again, I think this is the 10th time this past 2 years they've said that. Yeah, no, it's not going to happen. Because, as he points out, the legislation will get introduced, and then the lawyers will get hold of it. They'll take it all the way to the Human Rights Court in the European Human Rights Court. The European Human Rights will say, oh, it's illegal. Can't do that. And it won't be implemented. So nothing will happen.
I think he's right about that. That's what will happen. It does feel like Sunak and Braverman are addressing it in a way that their predecessors aren't, to give them credit.
They're proposing the right policy, but they haven't left the European Court of Human Rights.
Yeah, so
it will just get destroyed.
It will get diluted. And it makes you crave an abolition of Parliament and a return to a monarchical system. If only we had a great dictator or a king.
But you don't need that. You literally just need a party in charge that can see, okay, this is going to get stopped, so we won't do it. Because for the Tories, like, my viewing of this is that they've done this forever as well. Like, Brexit was a great example of this, frankly.
Oh, they've undermined that.
Leading up to it. I mean, in the sense of the Tory party structurally will sit there, say, we're going to do the thing the base wants, but if they actually do it, then they've got to find something else to do, so they won't want to do that. So instead, they say, okay, we'll do this thing you totally want. Oh, drat. The European Court of Human Rights, or the EU, or the UN, or whatever, some other thing we have no actual ability to counter in terms of controlling it, has blocked us. Nothing we can do. I remember endlessly, you would get Tory MPs who would get constituents come to them and say, I want this changed. It's ruining my business, ruining my life. And they would say, oh, the EU, nothing we can do. And it's like, okay, great, then leave the EU. Whoa, hang on a minute. And then we actually did it. And it's like, yeah, see? This international globalist myriad of organizations actually aren't that important. You can just leave. and then do whatever you want. And again, it comes down, in this case, to the HRC, where they could just leave tomorrow. There's nothing stopping them. Got all the power to do it. And in which case, their thing that they're proposing wouldn't be stopped.
This is why I don't like the party system as it is, because I just think we need one leader with a vision, and he just does it.
Libertarian king.
A libertarian king.
I don't disagree. But it just annoys me every time where you'll get, like, I remember there was something else under Theresa May, where she was like, well, we've signed some UN agreements, so we can't actually do the common sense thing here that the base is wanting. Instead, we have to do nonsense. It's like,
yeah,
just ignore the UN. What are the UN going to do?
What's the great motto? It is easier to seek forgiveness than it is permission. If they go through the thing of trying to seek permission, they're never going to get it. And it takes years, and it's slow, and it's ponderous.
But also, who are you asking? Like, the UN is what gives Parliament its right to rule. Of course it doesn't.
So,
does the HRC give the Parliament the right to rule? Of course it doesn't. It's the British people.
I was having dinner with a guy who's quite influential within the Conservative Party the other night. I won't say who he is. But he said something that really stuck with me is, if you want to get a minister or a high-powered civil servant or whoever it is, the director of the BBC or the director of the NHS or whatever it is, to do something, and you go to them, here, we've got a problem with mugs, we need to fix this problem with mugs, you need to do this to fix the mug problem, nothing will happen. So what you have to do, if you want to get XYZ to fix the mug problem, you have to leak a story to the press going, mug disaster, what is the... And then you have to go, look, there's a mug disaster going on. And the only way to get anyone to do something is to leak stuff to the press and for them to then face career pressure to have to do something.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they will not do it. You know, they always take the path of least resistance. And so you have to make the path of least resistance doing something about the problem. And that's kind of what's happening with immigration at the moment.
But that's the weird divide between the two left-right parties we have here. Because the right-wing party in our country, there is such a lack of people who are typically called ideologues.
Well, it's not right-wing, it's social democrat. But...
Yeah, but my point being just is it's normally phrased. Because that party doesn't actually have any rightists in it. Like, what you would call an ideologue, someone who is in politics for ideological reasons and therefore has a demand to do a thing. You come to them and say, this is wrong because, you know, mass immigration is wrong because of right-wing reasons, right? And that person would go, well, yeah, I agree with that, and they carry on and we'll deal with it. But the Conservatives don't have any of those people, it seems. Very, very few of them. They have instead people who, like you say, are only motivated by career pressure.
Mm-hmm.
When you get to the Labour Party...
Farage should be a Tory.
Yeah, when you get to the Labour Party, you actually do get left-wing Farages.
Yeah,
you know, you get people who are genuinely.
You've got Jacob Rees-Mogg and Steve Baker and people like that in the Conservative Party, but they have very little influence.
And it's ridiculous. It's like, this isn't how politics should actually operate, because, as you say, you end up with that situation where you've just got careerists who you have to threaten to get anything done, and that's mad. But that's where I think they are. It's why I agree with Nigel that nothing will happen in this actual instance.
By the way, just coming back to, we saw how corrupt US politics is over that January the 6th story that we were talking about at the beginning of the show. Just seeing Farage there, you know, the way that was it 2016, that election 2016, and the way they fiddled Thanet. You know, he should have won that by-election in Thanet, South Thanet.
I think we're still allowed to say that. Did you know YouTube's changed its rules? Every US election for all time is perfect now.
I didn't know that.
But only US elections, German elections, and Brazilian ones. The UK ones are still up for grabs.
Okay, well, I'm delighted. I don't want to get your YouTube cancelled.
No, but how ridiculous is that, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's absurd. But so you know that there is a strong... When Farage starts talking about the globalists and the establishment, you know, they shafted Liz Truss.
Yeah, we can name them.
You know, the OBR data was wrong. The Bank of England... It was the Bank of England that did for her. And, you know, that explosion of bond yields happened the day before. It's because the Bank of England announced that week they were auctioning bonds off. And so that's gilts off, I should say. And so that's what did for the thing. And then it was all blamed on Kwarteng's budget. So, you know, the establishment does not want any of the stuff that we are talking about to happen. And it is mighty powerful. And any time there's a sort of opening, such as Farage getting a seat in the House of Commons, it stops it happening.
Yeah, and we can see this just in terms of timeline. If you refresh this one, this is Richard Tice just putting out, of course it is, you know, a party piece from his party, Reform, but it's correct, which is, here's every Conservative Prime Minister talking about how they're going to stop illegal immigration, and it's been quite a lot of years. Like, it hasn't been 6 months and give them time. Like, no.
Yeah.
I mean, this goes back to David Cameron, for Christ's sake. So that's just a joke. And also, I'm not really sure what I'm expecting, because whenever I go and check out Conservative ministers, they do keep tweeting stupid things. I'm just like, come on, man. Why'd you do that? Like, if we go to, I can't remember if he's the chairman still, but James Cleverly over here just decided to tweet out India is the future. You know, blah, 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 why I'm working with other countries. But just, why do you tweet India is the future? Like, man, you're mad. I don't want, patriotic British ministers or politicians being like, yeah, foreign countries, no, Britain is the future. You God, simple stuff I would have expected, but okay.
He's kind of right about India.
He is correct that they are going to be overtaking us. I think they have in terms of GDP last year.
You know, the most spoken English in the world, in other words, the default English accent in the world in about 20 or 30 years will be that slightly comical Indian English accent.
But have you seen
that? That will be the English that we speak is. I find that really interesting. Yeah.
But also the terms of wealth.
But in terms of in the global media, that will be that sort of Indian accent will be the default English accent of the world.
But even if there's millions of them and they're poor, they're not able to have that kind of influence over the world. But if you look at a GDP graph of India, it's a straight line now, just going up. And then you look at the UK, it's another straight line.
Look at the demographics of tech CEOs in the US.
That's saying too much.
They're all Indian.
Have you seen? I can't get over it. You get these graphs that are like, the Irish control the world or whatever, and it's a funny joke. And then you see the Indians. Like, if you go to Indian news outlets, they'll be posting graphs of like every CEO or every leader of this company or that company, and they're just celebrating like, yeah, better than you.
Yeah,
I'm not mocking it.
That's that's the attitude of many immigrants. But if you have that attitude as an Englishman, you're racist.
It's ridiculous. But we'll go to the Calais stuff, because Care for Calais decided to put out this notice. Are you familiar with Care for Calais?
I'm not familiar. I'm about to learn, as I always do doing this show.
They're a comical group. They spend their time telling us about how everyone who's coming across the channel is an innocent victim of war or, I don't know, persecution. We don't know who by. They never were able to get that far. They say in here, many families will not risk their daughter's safety on a journey to Europe. When asked, why are there more men in Calais? Just think about the sentence. Many families will not risk their daughter's safety on a journey to Europe. Right, then it's a choice. You decide to send the women are fine where they are, otherwise you would have sent them. In which case, you're not a refugee by definition, if where you are is safer than the journey. Like, you may have noticed that Ukrainian daughters are sent out of Ukraine because being in Ukraine, you're probably going to die in the war if you're near the front line. Yeah, you're a refugee then. But if you're in a safe place, yeah, then you found refuge. You don't need to go any further. I just find that hilarious. Like, even in their own articles now, they're admitting this is a joke.
You know why they don't want to stay in France or Germany?
Less money, and also they've been rejected.
Most of them have English. Most of them have some English.
But when you go
they don't have French or German, so just that little bit of English makes them want to come here.
You know what's ridiculous? When you go to France, no one speaks English.
They do a bit, but I know what you mean.
Yeah. Go to Germany. Nobody speaks English there.
No, but I mean, they feel more comfortable going somewhere where they have a bit of the language.
I love it, but that's always given, at least it was in Parliament, as an argument as to why we had to have open borders. It was like, well, they speak English. I'm like, what? That's not really... It's not really enough to be like, well, get rid of the borders then. But I get your point. It is true. But what's also funny is when we surveyed them, I can't remember which segment we did, but there was a whole bunch of them who were coming in illegally. And they had the names, and they were able to prove like 90% of them had applied for asylum in France and all been rejected because they were bullshitters. So they went, okay, we'll go to England. But we're moving on. We'll go to just how welcoming these people are. This is a clip I just have to mention. This guy here, Julian, he just goes places and films legally to make the point of like filming the police. And that's obviously legal. Some police officers will get all uppity and then try and take your camera, and you can sue them for money. Mm-hmm. It's not about the money. It's about the principle of you need to learn. We're allowed to film in public. So he did it with a hotel.
Yeah, they seem to spend more time trying to shut down the guys who are filming the immigrants than they do actually, because they're the Tucker Carlsons, aren't they?
Yeah.
Citizen journalism is fantastic. I love it.
So this guy engaged in some, and I thought we'd enjoy what happened because the people working in the hotels and the people in the hotels are just the most wonderful of individuals. Let's play.
No, don't you touch my stuff.
The police, have your
Well, then I'll have you arrested for touching my stuff.
I don't. You're not giving my permission to record me.
Look, you're touching me again.
I don't give a shit because I don't want you recording me.
Honestly, I will use self-defense if necessary. Get off! Get off my stuff! Get off my stuff!
Are you crazy?
No, it's my stuff!
Are you crazy?
Go away.
No,
Are you crazy?
Me.
Are you crazy?
Go on, go.
Go out
on
now.
public property.
Fuck you.
Go.
Go out now.
That's the local refugees.
So he was assaulted by a refugee who didn't like being filmed.
The main guy being the staff worker, but then the refugees came over to have a go as well.
He sounded Eastern European, the guy.
You can see them there.
Jesus.
Wonderful people. Ah, I'm sure London's great find. Again, plenty of women and children in this one.
He's just kicked me for the record.
You're provoking people. You've been very.
It's a lawful
For a
activity.
53-year-old man.
You're provoking them by filming in public. Well, it's justified to just beat people up, isn't it?
So was he English, that guy?
Yeah, this guy's a complete smug prick. We can see it because I found a still from when he started assaulting the guy who's filming. Look at the smile. He's happy with it, just a bully. Okay, great. But that's the situation.
Was he the guy with the Eastern European accent I heard, or was that was some?
That was the guys. I don't think they're Eastern European.
Okay.
They sounded Afghan to me.
Okay.
But we'll go to the opinions now, because that's the situation of where we live. Let's check out a Londoner's opinion. What does Londoner have to say? The first UK PM of colour, son of immigrants, stands behind a podium that says "Stop the boats" and announces a policy that slams the door for those seeking asylum, violating international law written to protect the vulnerable. I'm so disappointed and embarrassed. Not in my name.
Henna Rafiq.
Calling the Prime Minister a race traitor there. Cool. Good. Thanks. A real commitment to the conversation. You've really advanced humanity by being like, yes, all brown people want to destroy the Western world. That's what they should be doing. And he's betraying the race by saying that maybe we should stop the boats. I mean, I'm always astounded by how disgusting you'll get an opinion out of, like, London leftists. Like, they're so detached from the rest of society. I did see someone call up LBC earlier and try and do this with an LBC host, where they were like, oh, well, he's a traitor to the Browns. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? But biggest brain. So if we'll go to the next one, which is that he's the BNP.
Oh yeah, AC Grayling. Failing. The BNP. Yeah,
I'm
I mean,
not even going to engage. Just a joke. But now we go to the most intelligent leftist, Gary Lineker, who came out and said, there is no huge influx. Fact check false. We take far fewer refugees than other major European countries. That's Germany's fault. I don't intend to commit suicide like they did. But okay. This is just an immeasurably cruel policy directed at the most vulnerable people in language that's not dissimilar to the used by Germany in the 1930s.
So were people trying to go to Germany in the 1930s?
I think
or were they trying to leave?
I think they were trying to break into the concentration camps and get in. At least if we go to the next one, I mean, we can see.
You know,
Here's an artist's interpretation of what Gary Lineker believes the Holocaust was. Next time, brother, we'll break into Auschwitz. Yeah, no, that isn't what happened, in case you're wondering. I can't get over how this, cartoonist memes never miss to actually represent their views.
Lineker just abuses his position, doesn't he? I mean, how hard is the BBC seem to think he's invaluable and he's the reason Match of the Day is successful. People watch Match of the Day because they just want to watch football, an hour's summary of the football on a Saturday night, and it's been a cultural institution since forever. And it really is not that hard to look into an auto cue and read an auto cue and talk about football. And there are millions of people who
There's
could
nobody
do that
who wants
job.
that job.
Yeah, I'd do it. I would pay to do it just for the platform that is Match of the Day. And I know I could do it every inch as well as Lineker. And just because I wasn't a centre forward doesn't mean I can't read an auto cue and talk about football. In fact, I dare say my vocabulary is bigger than Gary Lineker's, and so therefore I can talk about it better than he can. And there's plenty of others who would do that job for nothing. And the idea that you have to spend all that money paying for a presenter is just so misguided.
Without that money, we wouldn't have such big brain takes as the Holocaust was an option.
Yeah.
As Gary
And
Lineker
it's fine
seems
if
to be
he wants
saying.
to tweet this stuff and have his opinions. I don't have an issue with that. But then I have an issue with him being on Match of the Day.
We'll go to some conversations about this. A Jewish Conservative Party member decided to ask Nick Ferrari if she was a Nazi.
Imagine if Gary Lineker was going, I voted to leave the European Union. I'm pro-Brexit. We need to get our borders stronger to stop all this. Gone.
Yeah. I just thought but that's the BBC for you. I just can't get over how he unironically continues to believe these things, because you might think it's bait. Like, well, who's that guy who cycles and uploads every instance of him? Jeremy Vine. I mean, I believe that's bait at this point. Just watching every clip of him being like, "Whoa, how could a car be on the road?"
There's a
Madness.
definite lack of self-awareness factor going on.
I mean, it's comical.
Yeah.
For people who don't know, go look up Jeremy Vine's Twitter. It's literally just him moaning that other people are on the road except cyclists, which is
Do you
funny.
think it's like when you tweet and you just get a million whatever it is reactions, likes, dislikes? It's just they're just like Piers Morgan or someone. They just get off on the attention, whether it's good or bad. They just want the
bait
attention.
posting? Yeah, but I think Jeremy Vine is bait posting. Like, he's leaving bait for that attention, but
Yeah,
I think
I mean, that
Lineker is
would
genuinely a moron.
Well, no, but I think that I don't think he's, even though you could interpret it as massive trolling. I don't think he is.
Maybe not.
But do you think they just do it for the dopamine hits?
No, I think they're generally that stupid. Especially Lineker. I think he actually sat there and was like, "This is just like the 1930s, isn't it?" He doesn't know anything. I mean, he knows about football, and that is literally it.
Reductio ad Hitlerum.
Yeah, every time. So, I mean, this Jewish Conservative member called up LBC to be like, "Am I a Nazi?" Yes, you are. At least according to Gary Lineker's definition of Nazis, which is, the real bad thing about
So
the
Nick
Nazis.
Ferrari told us she was a Nazi.
No, but by Gary's
I see.
definition, it would be. Because you know what the real problem with the Nazis was? Their border policy. No, I thought it was the other stuff that we hated the Nazis for. But that's just me. Apparently Gary Lineker's fine with the rest of it, but just the border policy stuff is the thing that makes them
But
bad
who was
people.
actually trying to move to Nazi Germany?
American Germans? There were quite a few, actually.
Really?
Yeah, because they got the, call to the fatherland thing. Like, there were
But
a
they
lot...
were the same people, and they were welcomed up, I'm guessing, as the same people.
Well, they made bank out of it, because, of course, you turn up and, we found this house for you. Who used to live in it? Don't ask. Move in. So, there's that. But getting to the next bit, Gary Lineker has decided he will keep speaking out for those who have no voice, he says. Yeah.
What, like people who voted for Brexit?
Yeah, the ones who aren't getting what they want. Like, the mass majority of this country voted that we should have hard borders. We have the worst borders I think we've ever had as a nation. Like, the people who have no voice here are the ones not getting what they want, the people with no power. You're the one in power. Even though your party isn't in power, your doctrine is.
My son, when Russia was invaded Ukraine, my son was going, how good it is to be Britain because you're an island and we can't be invaded. And I was like, you have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, that would stop Putin.
Yeah.
Is it Putin? God damn it. I love it. Yeah, like, we can't stop boats. How are we going to stop Putin? It's not going great for us. But we'll go to Sheila from LBC because my personal favourite
Sheila Fogarty.
moronic response to all of this. She decided to read out that the Taliban have changed the law in Afghanistan to be in coherence with Islam. I didn't expect that either, that the Taliban were Muslims. Shock, I know. So they decided to do that, and she reads it out and says how horrific it is that this new divorce law is the case in Afghanistan, and therefore we should have open borders with the entire world. I didn't follow that either. I don't think it make any kind of sense. Also, Sheila, go and ask the women of Afghanistan what they actually think of Islamic law. Polling
The
this.
media just conflates legal migration and refugee status and illegal immigration, and they just are so irresponsible in that regard.
I just can't get over how she doesn't seem to know either. Like, I don't know if you know, but Pew Polling went to Afghanistan under the American occupation and asked Afghan women on their own, do you want Sharia law? Detailed what it was. 99% said yes to everything. Okay, well, you've got it.
But that might be, they might have felt pressure to say that.
They're on their own with a Pew poller. We can't get any better. Like, there's nothing more we could have done.
All right.
So there's that. But that's the thing I look at Sheila over there. It's just like, for them, the rest of the world is just unlivable. Nobody lives there. Presumably. She's never been, so she wouldn't know. You know, the people who say that Mexico
That's what I
is hell
always
on earth.
say when people say the UK is racist. Just go and travel for a year.
Have fun.
See the rest of the world and then come back and tell me the UK is racist.
But I'm sure Sheila lives somewhere like our next link. We could have a look. This is, I believe this is what? Bradford? There's an area in Bradford that's now 5% English, 95% non-English. There we are, by the census data.
Ah, Carl Benjamin, my favourite tweeter.
But presumably, this is where Sheila lives. Gary Lineker doesn't know for sure. We can confirm that. David our friend of the podcast, was able to confirm it. Apparently he knows where he lives. If you go to the next one here, he doesn't live too far from either. And the ethnic makeup of where Gary Lineker lives, 88.9% white.
Yeah.
Strange.
Barnes. He lives in Barnes, doesn't he?
Weird. Isn't going to have a hotel full of those refugees next to his house.
Yeah.
Whereas I've got 3. Don't know if you noticed, there's one over there, and there's one just over the other side now.
This is in Swindon.
Yeah.
You live in Swindon.
Yeah. Literally surrounded by them. We go walking. It used to be when I first moved here. That's only 2 years ago. Majority of people spoke English in the town centre. Now when I go for a walk, I hear at least 4 languages every day. Usually some kind of French from some guys who look like they're from the hotels, and I see them every day, so I would be surprised they have no hotels.
Would that be Central Africa?
Something like that, presumably
Yeah.
Mali, something like
Yeah.
that. I hear Arabic all the time. That's fantastic. Polish, there's a large Polish community that were already here, so that was the one used here before. And then I don't think it's
Afghan?
Arabic. Yeah, like Farsi.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Do
Gary Lineker doesn't
what
have to hear
language do
that
they
every
speak in Afghanistan? Afghanistani, is it?
Depend on what group you're in. So
Okay.
the Taliban are now in charge, so officially it's Pashto,
Okay.
even though most of the country don't speak Pashto. I gotta be honest, that's just funny. Otherwise, that's that. That's the bill that is going to do basically nothing, let's be frank. And the most intelligent leftist in the world. If you appreciated that segment from the podcast, The Lotus Eaters, you can go to lotuseaters.com to get access to all the premium content that's on the site, such as the book clubs we do, this one on Lawrence Wright's The Looming Tower. And if you'd like to follow what else is being put out, you can follow on Getter at lotuseaters_com on Getter. Thank you and goodbye.